Hello, my name is Adam, and I'm on a mission to be the most prolific reviewer of all time, which means I review books, movies, podcasts, whatever. Today I am reviewing a movie called The Petrified Forest, and this movie stars Betty Davis, Leslie Howard, and Humphrey Bogart. And if you've seen the movie, and even if you haven't, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to watch this review until the end and then leave your comment about what you think about the movie and what you think about my opinion. It really does help people get a better perspective on things. So, The Petrified Forest is a movie I decided to watch because I'm slowly becoming more and more fascinated with the acting of Betty Davis because she is one of these huge stars from the 30s, and movies like this made her a star, but she's not a beautiful woman. That's not to say that she's not attractive. She's kind of cute, more cute than attractive. And because of that, I think that she was forced to take more interesting roles. And in this, so I've seen a movie towards the end of her career called All About Eve, where she's kind of channeling Tallulah Bankhead. I've seen a movie kind of in the later stage of her early career called Jezebel, where she is channeling her kind of stuck up teenage girl self. And this movie is kind of channeling her sense of wonder about the world actually and trying to experience what the world has to offer. So it's also a quite very unique performance. And the movie centers around her performance as Gabby, and two other characters are really important in this film, although the supporting cast does a great job as well. So the two other characters are played by Leslie Howard, as I mentioned, and that's Alan Squire, and he's an unemployed um, writer who's traveling across America. And Bogart, in his film debut, is per, is portraying a gangster named Duke Mantee, who's on the run after a massacre in Oklahoma City, and he's picked the particular setting, this gas station in the Petrified Forest, to meet the other half of his gang. Um, so that's the last part of the movie, what I just told you about. The first part of the movie is kind of completely different. It's sort of this really kind of charming slice of life about what's happening in this gas station and the characters that inhabit the gas station. And you really know a lot about Gabby and her family before Duke actually arrives. And I think Duke arrives in the last, maybe not even the last half, but the last third of the movie. So it's really, really, really good. And I, as I said, I'm fascinated by Betty Davis's range as a performer. So that's good. And I had seen, I've seen now three Bogart films. Casablanca, but honestly, I don't remember his performance in that because I saw that many, many years ago. And a movie I saw more recently called The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, where he's playing kind of against type. He's playing sort of like this guy who goes crazy and is a bit of a coward. And in this movie, this is his film debut actually, and the camera just loves him. The lines that he says are oozing with menace. It's such a great performance, but you know, he's not he's not playing a character, right? He's he's reaching deep within himself to show you bits of his personality, and so his personality becomes that character. So that's one style of acting, and a lot of actors do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are actors who actually play roles, and I think Betty Davis is a person who played roles throughout her career. And then you have, and this was kind of a revelation for me, Leslie Howard. So Leslie Howard was one of the biggest film stars before the Second World War, and he was such a big film star that when they offered him this part, they gave him creative control. And the movie is based on a play, and the character of Duke Manty was performed by Humphrey Bogart in that play as well. So Howard was like, he has to play that part. And that was a really great decision because he's brilliant in this part, and we wouldn't have had Humphrey Bogart probably. I mean, who knows? But this was his introduction to cinema and to the world that couldn't see him on stage. And what an introduction. Really, really, really great. And great acting. And Howard is good also. And he's good in a different way than Duke, because Duke is full of menace. And he's different. He's good in a different way than Davis as Gabby is, because she's playing this little girl, right? And he's playing this sort of like world-weary, resigned guy, and he's like too clever for the situation. Like he is far, like you can tell that he's far more intelligent than the people around him, but he is kind of like he's a failure in life, right? He's super intelligent, but a failure in life. So he's at the same level, but he has this wit which is different than the others, and I think people are attracted to that. So that's also kind of a really kind of powerful charisma that Howard had, and it's really sad that we don't think about Howard more often nowadays. And the reason we don't is because during the Second World War, his plane was shot down. He went back to England to help with the war effort. His plane was shot down. He was in Portugal doing something connected to culture, and there's some kind of controversy as to why the plane was shot down. Winston Churchill believed that his plane was shot down because his agent was also a fat Englishman, and so the German spies thought that was Churchill. So who knows? Yeah, but as I said, he was a huge, huge star, and it's easy to see why. Like, he kind of had the same sort of vibe as somebody, like, it's not exactly the same, but it's that level of charisma of Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or somebody like that. And I'd be curious to see if I want to see more films with him, and I wonder if he is more like the Bogart school of acting or more like the Davis school of acting. Yeah, so the film is really, really quite enjoyable. It goes by really, really fast. It's only an hour and a half, and it's divided into those two parts that I said. And I think the only thing that might be a bit of a drawback or disadvantage for modern audiences is the fact that Gabby and Alan confess their love for each other after knowing each other for literally one afternoon. And you might think that that is quite dramatic and probably unrealistic. But I think it makes sense in the sense of the story, because Alan is this kind of cynical romantic, and he has always wanted somebody to look at him like Gabby looks at him. And Gabby, of course, is a huge romantic as well, and she wants to see the world, and she kind of imagines the world in one way, which it isn't, but she imagines it in that way. And so they're both kind of very, very romantic people, like in the big R sense of romanticism. Like they believe in, love and feelings and expressions and all of that stuff. So I think it's understandable from that perspective. And the other perspective is just human psychology. Like, they are in a very stressful situation. They've seen somebody get shot. So I think the emotions are heightened in that case. But yeah, that is the only criticism I have of that movie, because it is brilliant. It's really, really good. And the supporting cast, as I said, is also really good. There are there it's interesting too because this movie came out before a movie like Jezebel, and Jezebel has very odd point of view about slavery, and in this movie, the African American experience is actually mentioned because one of Duke's gang is some kind of guy from Chicago or something who's black, and then the rich couple that Alan, because their car breaks down and they get back in the restaurant again, but they have a chauffeur who's a black kid or something, and there's this interplay between those two characters, and maybe I'll tell you what their names are. Um, their names are, one second. Uh, uh, oh, Slim Thompson plays Slim. And then there's Joseph, the chauffeur. So Slim says to Joseph, like, hey, have a drink. And Joseph asks his boss if he can have a drink. And Slim is like, really, really making a lot of cutting remarks about how he is a bot guy and, maybe not bot, he doesn't use that, but he says, like, basically, like, he says, like, haven't you heard of the Great Liberation or whatever? So it's crazy because that interaction shows that movies made in the 1930s could actually talk about things that were happening in the 1930s. Uh, yeah, so, but that's not a big part of the movie. It's like maybe 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, and I'm probably only commenting it on it because Jezebel is so weird in that regard, and I watched Jezebel before I watched this movie. So if you haven't seen this movie, it's really, really short. The writing is really clever. The acting is brilliant, so I recommend it. And if you have seen the movie and your opinion differs from mine, like maybe write in the comments why you think the movie is bad. It's not bad, but maybe you think it is. I don't know. Also, if you like my reviews, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to have 150 subscribers on YouTube and by the end of January. And currently, I believe I have 137. So it is possible. Dreams do come true. And if you really want to support the podcast and the channel, there is a link to the Patreon in the description or the show notes. Thank you. Bye bye.